I was wrong about the Atlanta Hawks, and it's time to give them some credit. What's up, fellas? My name is Tucker. Hope you guys are having a good day. Today's video, we got to talk about the Atlanta Hawks. After that crazy game last night against Philadelphia, we'll talk about some of the opinions I've had about this team this year and a lot of the ways that they've ended up proving me wrong. Quickly before we get started, I want to let you know I'm doing a watch party stream tonight for Nets Bucks Game 6 on YouTube tonight, 8:30 Eastern Time on this YouTube channel. We'll be hanging out, watching the game together. Be sure to come check it out. Okay, so during the year, I made multiple Atlanta Hawks videos, one of which was about Trae Young being a very annoying basketball player to watch because of the way that he draws fouls and the fact that it feels like he wants to be Steph without actually being Steph. It feels like he doesn't trust his teammates. All he wants to do is pull up from 35 feet and put on a show for everyone. Some of those points I'll stand by, but some of those annoying habits he shares with other NBA players as well. But the one more specifically we're going to be talking about today is where I doubted the Atlanta Hawks after a winning streak immediately after they hired Nate McMillan. So they fired Lloyd Pierce. At the time that they fire him, Atlanta is nothing special as a team. They can't really guard anybody. They're not an incredibly efficient offensive team. They're certainly talented. But at the time that Nate McMillan comes in, they start playing much, much better. I think they go on like a 7 or 8 game win streak. But basically, I just pushed it off to the side and I said, it's an easier schedule. They're, not necessarily playing incredibly well. We'll kind of wait and see on it. And now here they are, 1 game away from the Eastern Conference Finals, and it's time to give them some credit. Bringing in McMillan as the head coach and getting rid of Lloyd Pierce, interestingly, also aligned with this team getting healthy for the most part. They've dealt with injury issues throughout the entire season, but the main point there in terms of health was Bogdan Bogdanovic returning to the lineup. He has been an incredible addition to this group, and it's crazy to think about the fact that Sacramento let him go for nothing, didn't re-sign him, and the fact that Milwaukee almost ended up with him until Atlanta came into the last minute with a bigger free agent offer. The idea of Bogdanovic on this Bucks team or just the Kings giving him up for nothing is kind of crazy, and Atlanta is thankful for it. He is offensively, at least, a perfect complement to Trae Young as an on and an off ball player. He's someone that makes tough shots and big shots down the stretch of these games, and he's someone that Trae Young clearly trusts. And I think that is such an important point here in terms of the growth of Trae Young is the points that I was making about him for the first 2 years of his career, I think were fair. I don't think he trusted his teammates. I think too often he made selfish plays and too often he didn't get other people involved, and there wasn't this collective feeling about them as a team. And I think those things were true at the time and for certain parts of this year, but especially in the second half of this season as they started to get healthy, he started to make the correct decisions more and more, and he has become an incredible playmaker and passer in large part because he is now trusting his teammates. The talent was there, and he is now executing on that talent in a much, much better way. And as I said, they're now just 1 game away from the Eastern Conference Finals. And the more and more you look at this roster, it's actually a very talented team. Between Trae, Bogdanovic, Gallinari's had some struggles in the postseason, but he started to bring it together. John Collins has hit some big shots. Clint Capella has been fantastic with them defensively. Kevin Huerter has developed really nicely. And this postseason run is mostly without DeAndre Hunter and entirely without Cam Reddish. So there's still some upside to this group. Onyeka Okongwu has had some good minutes for them as well at the backup 5. And this is a good Hawks team. I can't deny that, anymore, that they're now 1 game away from the Eastern Conference Finals, which is crazy. And this game yesterday, I stopped watching for a good amount of the game, quite frankly. I saw that the Sixers were up by almost 30, and I walked away from the game. And I came back later, and I was checking Twitter, and all of a sudden the Hawks were within a couple of points and ended up winning the game. And I had to go back and look at the game and really see what happened. And, Atlanta just had one of those quarters. We've seen it against New York. We've seen it against Philly in the first game where they just have one of those quarters where they just score 40 or 50 points. And all of a sudden, in this case, they're right back in the game. And in other cases, they just completely blow the game wide open. Trae Young was awesome in the fourth quarter. And they have just a lot of scoring options. Offensively, they're really difficult to guard because Trae Young in ball screens is going to be able to get in the lane. And if you're not defending him properly, he's going to be able to hit floaters or he's going to hit Capella on the lob. And even if you guard that ball screen action perfectly, you're going to have to help off some of these guys, off of Huerter, off Bogdanovic, off Danilo Gallinari, off John Collins. And then even if you close out properly on those guys, they can drive and kick and move the ball. There's a lot of good things happening for them offensively. And then the real growth for me for this group has been defensively. from a personnel standpoint, they really shouldn't be that good of a defensive team, but they make up for that under Nate McMillan by just multiple, effort plays, and then the rim protection of Clint Capella. They kind of play around that. They say, you know what, we're going to be really aggressive on the perimeter trying to contest shots, because if you get to the rim, Capella is going to be really good about turning you away by the time you get there. So they've been really good there as well. And Philly, there's no Philly video coming as of now, but if they lose this series, there will be one. Nobody other than Embiid or Seth Curry, I don't think, made a shot in the fourth quarter. Embiid was incredible to start the game, and once again wore down towards the end. I believe he was like 1 for 5 down the stretch of that game after being 0 for 12 in the second half of game 4. And that's just inexcusable for Philly to lose a game that they were up 26. They were up 20 with like not a ton of time left in the third quarter, and they were at home and they blew the game. But like I said, got to give credit to Atlanta. The shooting, the spacing, the perimeter creation of Trae Young, they've been awesome. And eventually for Atlanta, I'll do a what's next video for them, and it's going to look very positive. There were points where I thought that bringing in specifically the Gallinari contract was a mistake for this group, because they spent all this money and I didn't see them being like a high-level playoff team, and it really limited their upside in terms of where they could go with this roster moving forward and how they could continue to add pieces now that they're going to need to extend John Collins in the offseason. And so those will all be interesting decisions, but eventually Trae's going to get a big extension. DeAndre Hunter, assuming he's healthy, will get a nice extension as well. Kevin Huerter, guys like that. John Collins is going to get paid. So eventually this is going to be a much more expensive roster than it is right now, but Atlanta is certainly ahead of schedule. They're certainly playing fantastic, and that's not something that can be taken away from them, anymore at this point. So I like to pride myself on this channel of, having opinions and understanding that I'm going to be wrong sometimes. And this is something that I was certainly wrong about. I just didn't see it, quite frankly, with Atlanta. When I was watching those games, when they brought in McMillan during that win streak, the teams they were playing just weren't that good. And I guess I allowed that to kind of skew my opinion of them rather than, just pay attention to how well Atlanta was playing themselves. I was a little bit more focused on the opposition. Now, there's still, some issues with this roster. I think that the two opponents they've played to this point in the postseason haven't really been able to punish the Trae Young aspect of their defense as much as maybe some other teams would be able to at certain points, where you really attack Trae Young, you try and hunt him in switches, and then even if it's not Young, if it's Kevin Huerter, they have some guys you can kind of definitely target defensively, and really go after them and try and get to the rim and really break down their defense that way. But when they're fully healthy, if they've got Cam Reddish out there and they've got DeAndre Hunter out there, that makes it certainly more difficult for a couple of reasons. One, because they might not switch as much because they feel like they can recover with some of their bigger wings. And two, even if you do get by somebody, they're going to have Hunter, Reddish, Capella, guys like that at the rim that are really going to be able to scramble and get back to where they need to on the perimeter while also protecting the rim. So they've made some really, really interesting moves to build this roster. Of course, the Trae Young, Luka Doncic thing where they end up with Cam Reddish. I'm interested to see whenever Reddish does get healthy next year what he can provide. And the DeAndre Hunter's really, really good. I'm surprised they've managed to play as well as they have in this Philly series without him. He's an incredibly versatile defender, someone that's improved offensively as well, and is a really critical part of their team. So there's a lot of interesting pieces here in Atlanta. They've got the opportunity to continue to improve, but they've made some underrated moves. Like I said, the Capella thing was something where they weren't like a throw-in in that trade, but Capella wasn't playing at the time that they traded for him, so it wasn't something that we really took into account for a ton. And Capella's arguably been like fourth-team All-NBA, if that was a thing, at the center position this year. Because, I think Bam made it as a forward, or Bam was listed as a forward, potentially with the All-NBA teams. Regardless, if there was a fourth-team All-NBA center, it'd either be Clint Capella or Bam Adebayo. They've both been really good. But at the time, it was like the Robert Covington, Capella, it was like a 4-team trade, and Capella just wasn't playing for Houston because of some injury stuff, and so we didn't really count for it. But he has been such an impactful player for them. Okungwu looks decent as well, and Atlanta is going to be a team to be heard from here over the next couple of seasons. Certainly ahead of schedule, and it's really cool to see a young team like this really step up to go from a 20-something win team the year before to now being one game away from the Eastern Conference Finals, which is pretty crazy. So all credit to Trae Young, Nate McMillan, the rest of that team. I was wrong. I was wrong about the Atlanta Hawks, 100%. But yeah, that's going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you guys very much for watching. As I said in the beginning, reminder, watch party tonight, 8:30 Eastern time on this YouTube channel if you guys want to check that out. Be fun to just see everybody hang out, and we'll watch Nets-Bucks Game 6 together. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, check out the boxes on screen. Leave a like rating on the videos as well. And yeah, Thanks, guys. I'll see y'all next time.